After hosting Christmas that year, I went to check the safe. It was just routine. I wasn't expecting anything to be wrong until I opened it and saw the cash was gone. My emergency stash had vanished. When I asked about it, my dad didn't flinch. He just said, "We gave it to your sister." No apology. No explanation. "She's starting a family," he added, like that justified everything. My hands went numb. Cold all the way through. That same night, I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. By the next morning, a few emails were already out. Certain accounts, ones I hadn't thought about in years, were quietly checked over. And then, that afternoon, my sister called. Her voice was tight. "What did you do?" she demanded. All I said was, "You should probably check your inbox." Christmas was supposed to be calm this time. I finally offered to host, not to show off or play the hero, but because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I could bring the warmth, they might remember how to hold on to it. So I cooked. I cleaned. I bought gifts for nieces and nephews who barely remembered who I was. My dad sat at the head of the table like some forgotten statue in a corduroy shirt. My sister drifted through the room, snapping pics for social media, barely present. And my mom? She stayed busy whispering behind folded napkins, too wrapped up in her own little world to ask me how I was doing. No one said thank you. Not for the food, not for opening my home, not even for letting them stay an extra couple nights after their pipes supposedly burst. I smiled through it anyway. Let it slide. I kept thinking, maybe if I didn't make it about me, they'd finally see me. They didn't. Everyone left. The house fell quiet. The pine needles got vacuumed, the wine glasses were loaded into the dishwasher. Out of habit, I went to check the safe, not because I was worried, but because that's just what I did when the house emptied out and the silence settled in. I turned the dial. The lock clicked. The door opened. And the cash, gone. $14,000. My emergency fund. Not retirement savings. Not investments. Just something I kept tucked away in case life ever turned upside down. The kind of money you keep when you've learned that sometimes the world forgets you. And that day, it had. I didn't lose it. Didn't scream. I just stood there, staring at that empty space like it owed me an explanation. That's when my dad strolled in, drying his hands with one of my dish towels like this was his place. "We gave it to your sister," he said, completely flat. "She's starting a family." Not, "We needed help." Not, "We borrowed it." Not even a heads up. They'd opened my safe. Taken what wasn't theirs. Handed it over without so much as a mention. And somehow, they didn't think I had the right to know. I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I just walked to the hallway, sat down on the bench beside the coat rack, and pulled out my phone. One call. My lawyer picked up on the second ring. "Evening," he said. "Something wrong?" I told him what happened. He paused. Then he said, "I'll start the paper trail tonight." I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. We hung up. The next hour slipped by in a haze. A few emails went out. Quiet things. Cold things. No grand announcement. Not yet. Later that afternoon, my sister called again. Her voice was all over the place, sharp, panicked, already halfway to tears. "What did you do?" I didn't yell. Didn't even let out a sigh. "You might want to check your inbox," I said. Then I hung up. More texts followed. One after the other. Then finally she wrote, "You're blowing this out of proportion." Like money just appears in safes. Like emergency funds grow on trees. Like unlocking someone's safe and taking what's inside doesn't count as theft if you feel entitled. I sat still. My coffee had gone cold. The laptop glowed quietly on the desk in front of me. Email threads were stacking up by the minute. I wasn't responding. I was remembering. Not just this moment, this theft, but all of them. This wasn't a one-off. This was proof. Another entry in a pattern I'd been too tired to face until now. And once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. Like the time a week before her wedding, I spotted a $9,800 charge on my card. "You don't have a spouse or kids," they said. "Might as well make yourself useful." The bridesmaids laughed. She grinned. I smiled back and replied, "Well, then I hope I'm useless real soon." They treated my cash like oxygen, free, infinite, and theirs by default. And when I finally started pulling the plug, they said I was being cruel. I'd covered the mortgage once, just a temporary patch, or so they told me. A week later, I saw them out shopping for patio furniture. I paid off her car loan back in 2021. That same day, she posted a photo with the caption, "Nothing feels better than financial independence." She didn't tag me. Every time I helped, they erased the trail. Every time I stayed quiet, they acted like they built the ladder all by themselves. I remembered what my mom said when I offered to co-sign their refinance. "You're the only one we can count on." She said it like it was praise. But looking back, it was a life sentence. And now, them taking from my safe, that was the period at the end of the sentence. I was never treated like a son. I was treated like a sponsor. Just a support system. Never seen. Every flashback came rushing back with a new kind of clarity. Christmas Eve, my seat given to a neighbor. "You'll be fine in the kitchen." Anniversary dinner, reserved for those who actually matter. Backyard remodel? $12,400 wiped out with a casual, "Don't be dramatic." RSVP cards for her wedding? My name on the return address. Her big day? Paid for on my credit line. And that voicemail from Dad. "Maybe it's better if you don't come anymore." None of these were just moments. They were data points. And I was the system keeping the whole thing running. They were just collecting the rewards. And what scared me most was this: they weren't even hiding it anymore. They'd gotten so used to using me that they stopped pretending I was ever part of it. Still, some small part of me hoped they'd stop before it was too late. I wasn't looking for an apology. I just wanted hesitation. A flicker of guilt. The pause. A sign that someone knew they'd crossed a line. But no one did. Not her. Not him. Not any of them. So I made a choice. No more flashbacks. No more patterns. No more smiling while they quietly cut me out. I was done being useful. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to let them feel the holes they never realized I was filling. After my sister called that night, I didn't explain. I didn't demand anything back. I didn't reclaim the money. I reclaimed myself. The emails I sent after that weren't impulsive. They were precise. Like checking off a list I'd been drafting in my head for years. First, I contacted my lawyer. I asked him to prepare the formal disassociation papers. Remove me from all joint accounts. Start a full asset protection review. Next, I reached out to my financial advisor. The next step was simple: move every liquid asset into a protected trust, one that excluded immediate family. No loopholes. No access. Then came the third call, to my accountant. I told him to pull up every payment link to my family from the last 5 years. Run a full audit. Flag anything unauthorized. Start building the paper trail. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming the structure they'd quietly built around me without my permission. By midnight, I was logged into the admin panel of the small IT company I'd built from scratch, the same company they never asked about but relied on daily. That system quietly powered everything. My parents' home security, their cloud backups, mobile plans, even the software licenses for their accounting firm. All under my company's wing. All for free. All without acknowledgement. First, I shut down the cloud security cameras. Then the automated locks. Then the smart thermostat they never stopped bragging about at family dinners. I adjusted the DNS settings next, cutting off remote access to their home network. No more free Wi-Fi courtesy of me. No more late-night calls because their printer wasn't working again. Then I moved on to the shared family phone plan. 5 lines in total. Mine, theirs, and my sister's. I didn't cancel the plan. I just transferred the ownership. They had 72 hours to accept the transfer before the accounts suspended themselves. The moment they hesitated, the billing became theirs. No more free calls. No more subsidized tech. No more being their invisible IT guy. That's when I remembered the streaming subscriptions. It seemed so small, almost petty, but it was a symbol. I stepped back, ended my support for all of it, and left them to sort it out on their own. By morning, the messages started rolling in. My sister, why are the security cameras offline? I can't log in. My dad, the mortgage company just called. What did you do? My mom, you're not seriously doing this, are you? I didn't reply to any of them. They weren't really asking, they were demanding. Demanding I bring the system back online. But the system wasn't digital. The system was me. And I was logging out. By noon, they started calling. I let it ring. Waited for the little voicemail icon to show up. Dad's voice came through, "Let's resolve this calmly. Let's talk like adults." I laughed out loud. That was always his go-to line. Talk like adults. Usually after standing by while I got robbed, disrespected, pushed aside. By dinner, another message from my sister. "Netflix isn't working. Fix it." I wrote back one line. "You said you didn't need me." No punctuation. No emoji. Just the truth. But I wasn't done. I logged into their accounting firm's back-end system. They had no clue I still had admin-level access. They thought I set it up as a family favor years ago and moved on. What they didn't know was that I'd quietly kept their firewalls updated, managed their software licenses, and ensured their encrypted backups stayed intact, through my company. They didn't know I was still the one holding the domain registration. So I shut it down. Deactivated the software licenses. Posted a formal notice to their dashboard. Effective immediately, all pro bono maintenance has been terminated. Please contact your new IT provider to arrange continued service. I logged out. Then I waited. Half an hour later, the voicemails doubled. The next morning, my personal line rang again, this time from my uncle's clinic. Same deal. I'd built his system 2 years back and never removed it. It was running on my company's old infrastructure. Now it was down. They couldn't access patient records. Billing software was offline. Phones weren't syncing. His entire practice depended on something they never saw me holding up. I hadn't sabotaged a thing. I didn't crash it. I simply stepped away. And just like that, the scaffolding came crashing down. Not because I broke it, but because they never built any of it for themselves. That afternoon, my cousin Ellie sent a message. "Did you really pull everything?" I replied. "I pulled me." The rest fell on its own. She didn't ask any follow-up questions. Instead, she called. It was the first time we'd spoken in over a year. She told me what I already knew deep down, that my parents were spinning the narrative fast. They were telling anyone who would listen that I'd lost my mind, that I was unstable, that I was jealous. Classic. But this time, Ellie wasn't buying it. And she wasn't the only one. So I sent documentation, not to argue, not to gloat, just to quietly set the record straight. No commentary. Just facts. Audit logs. Payment records. Screenshots of system architecture. My name front and center. And a short note. "I just want you to know the truth." No response necessary. That night, another text from Dad. "You've made your point. Enough now." But this was never about making a point. This was about ending a pattern. I revoked access to the family storage unit, the one I'd paid for, unnoticed, over the last 3 years. It held all of Dad's old tools and the holiday decorations they loved showing off. Lease canceled. Locks changed. Then I called the mortgage company. Removed myself as co-signer on the refinance. The woman on the other end of the line hesitated. "You do understand this could trigger a foreclosure review?" she asked gently. I understood. I confirmed. 3 hours later, my mom texted. "The mortgage company called. Fix this." Always that word. I didn't reply. I took the last remaining balance from our shared emergency account and moved it into a trust account. Sealed, protected, only under my control. Then the texts turned desperate. "My sister. You're overreacting." My mom. "Family is all you have." I stared at that one for a long time. Then typed back, slowly. I had a family. I wasn't in it anymore. Not emotionally. Not legally. Not financially. I powered down my phone, just to give myself one night of real silence. The next day, I got on the phone with my lawyer again. Told him it was time to move forward with full legal disassociation from any and all family-linked business entities. I didn't want even a shred of liability hanging over me. No more loose ends. I didn't want my name floating anywhere near their failing structure. My lawyer, always calm and precise, asked, "Would you like me to draft a formal severance notice to send to them directly?" I paused. No, I said. Let the silence do the talking. Let them feel what it's like when the scaffolding vanishes. When the foundation they built their lives on quietly walks out the door. When the texts go unanswered. When the passwords stop working. When the safety net dissolves. And for the first time, I didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. Not for walking away. Not for letting their house of cards fall. Not for choosing myself after years of carrying their weight in silence. They didn't lose a son that day. They lost their system. And I had no intention of reinstalling it. The next morning, my phone buzzed like a hive. Not dozens of messages, hundreds. Calls, texts, voicemails. All pouring in like floodwater. Every single one came from people I used to call family. They were spiraling, and each message hit like a gut punch. My mom's message came in first, no punctuation, all caps. What have you done? We're suffering, please fix this before things get worse. Then my dad's voicemail. Pure rage. You ungrateful piece of, after everything I've done for you, this is how you repay us? I hope it was worth it. He played it on a loop, like repetition would make the guilt stick. My sister's group message to our extended family showed up next. She called me irrational. Said I'd pulled out of all financial and technical support. Told them not to trust me. Labeled it urgent, with 12 blue check marks. They figured if they screamed loud enough, someone would eventually get through. But silence, real silence, is the loudest response of all. And I'd become fluent in it. That morning I read through it all. The threats. The accusations. The pressure. One message from my sister stood out. Stop this or I'll go public with private information. Then came the legal threats. Lawyers representing my parents fired off demands. Restore the services. Undo the trust transfers. Fix what I broke. Emotional appeals followed. Your nieces are scared. We need our home back. Please, this has gone too far. I'd expected it. Every piece. It followed the same pattern as everything else. Predictable. Scripted. Rooted in fear. Not fear of me. Fear of being held accountable. Fear of losing the comfort they'd gotten used to. Fear of being forced to stand on their own. I didn't reply. I didn't argue. Just watched. About an hour later, my lawyer forwarded me a cease and desist letter from my sister's attorney. It accused me of intentionally disrupting services, warned of potential injunctions, and promised vague but serious consequences. My lawyer's message underneath was short. They can file if they want. Let's see if they do. Everything you've done is legal, well-documented, and justified. I leaned back in my chair. Heart steady. The storm had officially begun. But here's the thing about storms, they run out of thunder. By mid-afternoon, the family started reaching for reinforcements. Uncle Chris, their banker friend, texted me. You know the legal fees could bankrupt them. Think this through. And Jenna, always playing public relations, started posting cryptic quotes about family values and betrayal on Facebook, hinting I was toxic, selfish, and unstable. They were scrambling now, hoping sympathy would cover their tracks. But I'd already taken the next step. I uploaded secured versions of the audit logs, emails, payment receipts, every piece of it, to a private legal Dropbox, accessible only by a third-party neutral lawyer. Every timestamp, every transfer, every digital footprint. Transparent, traceable, airtight. Then came the whispers. Not actual news coverage, just gossip. Friends started texting me, "Hey, I heard something weird. Did you really pull the plug?" Some even got forwarded pieces of our group chats. They were trying to control the narrative. But the truth had legs of its own. That evening, the noise peaked. Mom's lawyer emailed, demanding emergency compliance and threatening monetary damages. Then a letter from Dad arrived, dry and sharp, alleging emotional distress, reputational harm, and a complete breach of family trust. They painted themselves as victims. Said they'd only done it to help her get started. Said they never meant to hurt me. That was their story. We gave the money. He exposed us. He went nuclear without warning. Classic spin. But let's be clear. They broke into my safe. They took my money. They erased me from the system I built. And now they were mad because I finally said no. My inbox was flooded with demands and ultimatums. I selected every one, forwarded them to my lawyer. Then I responded plainly, under review. My next steps will be guided by counsel. No signature. No warmth. Because there wasn't any left to give. That night, another text from my sister lit up the screen. If you really cared about this family, you wouldn't be hiding behind lawyers. You'd give it all back. I sat with that for a moment. Then I typed, I gave everything. You took it. Twice. Then I hit send. And for the first time, real silence answered me back. Not the buzzing, heavy kind full of threats. Just stillness. The kind that shows up when the connection's truly broken. Their voices faded. Their systems went dark. Their grips started to loosen. More than that, they understood now. I wasn't coming back to the old setup. I wasn't rebuilding what they tore down. Not under their rules. Christmas lights sat boxed up and unplugged in the basement. Security cameras blinked offline. Shared drives? Gone. When I checked my phone again, there were no missed calls. No new texts. Nothing left unread. Because in the center of that storm wasn't anger. It was consequence. They built a system with me as the backbone. I removed myself. Now they had to stand in the ruins. That's when they showed up. All three of them. My mother. My father. My sister stood there on the porch like she was dressed in grief itself. Not ready for a fight. Not looking for forgiveness. Just polished and practiced. Maya opened the door but didn't invite them inside. She simply said, "You can stand right there." I stayed seated, listening. Before my mom even started speaking, I could hear her voice crack. "We didn't come here to fight," she said softly. "We just want to talk." Maya stepped aside, letting their words drift into the room like smoke from a fire that had already burned down the whole house. I finally looked up and stood. Dad went first. "You look tired, son." I said nothing. Mom took over next, voice shaky but rehearsed. "We made mistakes. This was never supposed to go this far. You cut everything off. You didn't have to make it so final." Then she said the line I knew was coming. The one they'd all been building toward. "We need you. Not we miss you. Not we're sorry. Just need." Like I was still a tool. A feature. A fix for their broken system. I stepped forward, Maya still by my side. "You don't need me," I said. "You need what I gave you. And that's gone." Dad's voice hardened. "This family falls apart without you." "That's not a family," I shot back. "That's a business model." My sister moved closer, anger now sharp in her voice. "So you're just going to throw it all away? Over what? One bad night?" I laughed once. Short and cold. This wasn't one night. This was 20 years. You treated me like backup. Like infrastructure. Like a fuse you thought you could always reset. But the power's been cut. Mom's voice broke, real tears now. "We never meant to hurt you. We were overwhelmed. We didn't realize how much you did." I stared at her, that excuse landing like a slap. "You didn't ask. Because you didn't care. And that was enough." Dad tried again, quieter this time. "You're our son. We raised you. You owe us some humanity." "No," I said. "You raised me to believe I owed you everything. You spent it all. Now it's gone." Silence. The wind picked up, cold and sharp, just like the truth. I took a step closer so they'd hear every word. I didn't walk away because of money. I walked away because you never saw me. Only what I could give. I turned to my sister last. "You didn't just lose the perks. You lost connection." Then I looked at all of them. "You weren't cruel. You just didn't see me. And I'm done paying the price for that." Maya closed the door slowly behind them. They never knocked again. I stood there in the silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. Final. They didn't cry. They didn't beg. They just stood there, stunned. Because they finally realized what they never expected. I could leave. I would leave. And I meant it. And this time, they were right.